I noticed a small mix-up in your request. You listed two separate video ideas: the real reason why manual transmissions are dying and the 8 most unreliable engines ever made. Since I previously wrote a script for the manual transmission video, I will now write the full-length, over 2,000-word script for the 8 most unreliable engines ever made. Avoid these used cars. This script will use the negative hook and be highly detailed to meet the word count requirement. If you are looking for a used car, you need to hear this. There are cars that look great on paper. They look fast, they look cheap to buy, and they have the badge you want. But there is a time bomb sitting right under the hood, and it will explode your wallet. This isn't about cars that are just a little expensive to fix. These are about engines so bad, so fundamentally broken, that they can literally turn a decent used car into a pile of scrapped metal overnight. We have boiled down decades of mechanic horror stories and owner complaints into a list of the 8 most unreliable, costly, and simply terrible engines you need to run away from. We're talking about engines that have broken rings, stretched chains, and oil consumption that will make you feel like you're running a refinery, not a car. And the worst part? Some of these engines are in cars that people still recommend buying. By the end of this video, you will know exactly which used cars to leave sitting on the dealer lot, because trusting these engines is the fastest way to drain your bank account.
Let's be clear about what an unreliable engine means in this video. It doesn't mean it's low on power. It doesn't mean it makes a funny noise sometimes. It means you are looking at repairs that cost thousands, sometimes more than the car is even worth. These engines have fundamental, deep design flaws that no amount of good maintenance can fix. We're going to start with a popular German engine that has ruined the reputation of some fantastic cars. Number 8. Volkswagen Audi 2.0-liter TFSI EA888 Gen 1 and 2. This is one of the most common engines you will find in used Audis, VW Passats, Tiguans, and Jettas from roughly 2008 to 2014. It's a great engine for power and efficiency when it works. The problem, the massive, catastrophic problem, is oil. This engine loves oil so much that it drinks it like you drink water on a hot day. Owners of these cars routinely report having to top up their oil every few hundred miles. We're not talking about a little bit of oil here and there. We're talking about pouring in quarts of oil between every single oil change. Why does it do this? The main culprit is the piston rings. Inside the engine, the piston rings are supposed to scrape the oil off the cylinder walls so it stays in the oil pan and doesn't get burned. On these early generation EA888 engines, Volkswagen used piston rings that were too thin, or had a design flaw in the oil control ring itself. They simply weren't strong or wide enough to do their job properly. Over time, or even quite quickly if the car wasn't babied, these rings would clog up with carbon deposits, or they would just fail to seal properly against the cylinder wall. Once the rings stop working, the engine starts burning oil uncontrollably. That burning oil fouls the spark plugs, clogs the catalytic converter, and eventually leads to much bigger issues. The fix for this? It's not cheap. It's a full engine rebuild, pulling the engine out, tearing it down, and replacing the pistons and rods with a redesigned set that uses thicker, better rings. That repair is often a $4,000 to $6,000 job, which is more than what many of those older Jettas or Passats are even worth on the used market. If you're looking at a used Volkswagen or Audi from this time period, you need to ask for a very specific maintenance record. If the seller can't prove that this major piston ring replacement was already done with the redesigned parts, you are simply buying a ticking clock. Avoid this engine unless you have rock-solid proof of the repair.
Number 7. BMW N63 V8 Twin Turbo This engine is a V8 found in many high-end BMWs, like the 5 Series, 6 Series, 7 Series, and X5 from about 2008 to 2013. This engine is powerful. It sounds fantastic. It makes those big, heavy BMWs feel like rockets. But it is also a mechanical disaster born from an attempt at clever engineering. BMW wanted to save space and make the engine bay cleaner, so they put the turbochargers inside the V, between the two cylinder banks. This is called a hot V design. It was groundbreaking at the time. The problem? Heat. Massive, overwhelming heat. That high-powered V8 engine already generates a ton of heat. By putting the two turbochargers right in the middle, trapped between the two cylinder banks and the firewall, all that heat is locked in a box. This constant, extreme heat bakes every single plastic and rubber component on the top of the engine. The most common failure points are the valve stem seals, the fuel injectors, and the vacuum lines. The valve stem seals turn brittle from the heat and start letting oil pass right through, leading to huge oil consumption, just like the VW engine, but much worse. The plastic coolant lines crack and leak, leading to overheating, which is the kiss of death for any engine. The fuel injectors, which are extremely precise, fail constantly and are a nightmare to replace. BMW knew this was a problem and created a customer care package program to address some of the issues. But for a used car buyer now, you are facing almost guaranteed repairs in the thousands of dollars. Replacing the valve stem seals on this engine is an engine-out job for a mechanic, easily topping $7,000. The N63 is an example of an engine that was too clever for its own good. It delivered amazing performance, but was built without any regard for long-term reliability.
Head bolts. The engine uses TTY, torque-to-yield head bolts, which are designed to be stretched a specific amount. However, the pressure generated by the turbo and the high combustion heat is too much. The head bolts would stretch too much, leading to the head gasket failing and mixing coolant and oil. This is a very expensive, very time-consuming repair. EGR cooler. The exhaust gas recirculation EGR cooler on this engine clogs up constantly and fails. When it fails, it can send a huge amount of coolant directly into the combustion chamber, which is a fast way to destroy the entire engine. Oil cooler. The oil cooler also clogs up easily, which makes the engine oil hot and dirty, leading to premature wear on everything else. The combination of these three issues meant that these heavy-duty trucks were constantly in the shop. They were meant to be tough workhorses, but they spent more time being repaired than working. Many of these engines that are still on the road have been bulletproofed, meaning they've had massive expensive modifications to replace the bad head bolts, EGR system, and oil cooler. If you find a 6.0-liter Power Stroke that hasn't been bulletproofed with documented proof, you must, absolutely must, walk away. You're looking at a $10,000 repair bill waiting for the moment you hook up a heavy trailer. Number 5. GM Northstar V8. This engine was the flagship V8 for Cadillac from the 1990s and into the early 2000s, found in cars like the Seville and DeVille. It was supposed to be GM's answer to the high-tech European engines. The Northstar engine is a perfect example of poor engineering ruining a decent engine. The core, massive, car-killing problem with the Northstar is head gasket failure. It wasn't just that the gaskets themselves were bad, it was how the engine was bolted together. The bolts that hold the cylinder head to the engine block were just too short and didn't thread far enough into the aluminum engine block. This meant that over time and with constant temperature cycles, those head bolts would literally pull the threads right out of the aluminum engine block. Once the threads are stripped and the bolts lose tension, the head gasket can no longer seal properly and you get a massive leak, overheating, and total engine failure. The repair for this is a nightmare. A mechanic can't just put in a new head gasket, they have to use a special, expensive kit to drill out the stripped holes and install steel inserts, called studding or time-serting, to create new, strong threads. This is an engine-out job, which means dropping the entire powertrain out of the car.
The cost is astronomical, often far more than the used Cadillac is worth, and many mechanics flat out refuse to do the work because it is so difficult and time-consuming. If you find an old Cadillac with the Northstar V8 that is overheating, bubbling coolant, or showing oil in the coolant, you are basically looking at a paperweight. Steer clear of any Northstar V8. Number 4. Subaru EJ25 2.5-liter turbo, especially 2004 to 2007. Subaru engines are famous for their boxer design, where the cylinders lie flat, which makes the engine very low in the car, which helps with handling. The turbo versions of the 2.5-liter engine were found in the beloved WRX and STI models. These engines are fun, powerful, and have a legendary status. But for the used car buyer, they are full of hidden and expensive danger. The single biggest design flaw is the ringlands on the pistons. The ringland is the groove in the piston that the piston rings sit in. When the engine is pushed hard, which these cars often are, especially if the tune isn't perfect, the metal around these ringlands is too thin and too weak. They literally crack and shatter. When a ringland fails, you get all the symptoms of a bad piston ring: massive oil consumption, loss of compression, and a huge decrease in power. The engine needs a complete rebuild with stronger aftermarket pistons and rings. This isn't a small fix. It requires tearing the entire engine apart. Another issue is the dreaded head gasket failure, which plagued the naturally aspirated, non-turbo versions of the EJ25 for years, though the turbo versions are more known for the piston issues. The reason this engine makes our list is because the used market for these cars is so enthusiastic. People buy them, push them hard, and often sell them right before the engine starts to go. A used WRX from the mid-2000s might look like a cheap way to get a fun car, but you are almost guaranteed to face a multi-thousand-dollar engine rebuild within the first couple of years of ownership. Unless you have proof of a professional performance build, you are playing Russian roulette with your savings. Number 3. Nissan 3.5-liter VQ35DE, early generations pre-2006. The VQ V6 engine from Nissan is generally considered a good engine, but the early versions in cars like the Maxima, Altima, and Murano from the early 2000s had a specific terrible flaw. This is another case of a car that is often recommended, making it a dangerous trap. The main issue is excessive oil consumption caused by a major flaw in the piston rings. Just like the VW engine, the piston rings were designed poorly and quickly stopped doing their job, leading to the engine burning oil at an alarming rate. The difference here is the severity and Nissan's response. It was so bad that Nissan actually faced legal action and extended the warranty on some vehicles. However, now that these cars are 15 or 20 years old, that extended warranty is long gone and the problem is all yours. The repair is the same nightmare: a full engine teardown to replace the defective pistons and rings. The labor involved is so intense that the repair cost will often exceed the entire value of the car. It's an engine that is often considered disposable once the oil consumption gets bad enough. If you are looking at an older Nissan with the VQ35DE, you must do a compression test and check the maintenance history very carefully. If the owner can't show you detailed oil top-up records, assume the worst. A car that runs fine but burns a quart of oil every 500 miles is on a very short road to total engine failure, and you need to avoid it.
Number 2. Ford 4.6-liter/5.4-liter Triton V8 3-valve. These engines are legendary for how awful they are. Found in millions of Ford trucks and SUVs like the F-150, Expedition, and Mustang from the mid-2000s, these engines have two specific, massive, and expensive flaws that make them truly unreliable. Problem 1. Spark plugs. Ford used a very strange two-piece spark plug design in these engines. Over time, heat and carbon deposits would cause the end of the spark plug to break off inside the cylinder head when a mechanic tried to remove them. This is not a slight inconvenience. It requires specialized tools, hours of labor, and often removing the cylinder head to get the broken part out. A simple tune-up can quickly turn into a $1,500+ job. Problem 2. Timing chain and phasers. These engines use a complex system called variable valve timing, or VVT, that relies on parts called cam phasers. These phasers are activated by oil pressure, and the oil passages that feed them are small and prone to clogging.
When the phasers fail or the tensioners for the timing chain fail, which is also common, the engine will make a terrible, loud rattling noise, the diesel noise or death rattle. If you hear this noise on startup or at idle on a used Ford truck with the Triton V8, you are staring down the barrel of a $3,000 to $5,000 timing chain and phaser replacement job. If the chain breaks before you fix it, the engine is completely destroyed. The Triton V8 is simply one of the worst mass-produced engines of the modern era. The repair costs are so high and the failure rate is so common that it has sunk the value of countless otherwise good trucks. You must approach any used F-150 with this engine with extreme caution and only buy one where the VVT timing system has been completely overhauled with documented proof. Number 1. Toyota 2.4-liter 2AZ FE from 2002 to 2009. Wait a minute. A Toyota on a list of unreliable engines? This is where the shock and the trap come in. Toyota is the king of reliability, right? Usually, yes, but this engine is the single biggest exception to that rule, and it is a used car buyer's nightmare. This 2.4-liter four-cylinder engine was in some of the most popular and boringly reliable cars of the 2000s. The Camry, the RAV4, the Scion TC, and the Toyota Solara. Because it's a Toyota, everyone assumes it's safe. It is not. The number one problem is so fundamental that it can't be fixed. The engine block itself is defective. The block was made with a design flaw that allowed the piston rings to fail, leading to massive oil consumption. This is the same root cause as the VW and Nissan engines. But the way the block wears makes it even worse. The engine cylinder walls wear out into an oval shape over time because of the design of the engine. Once the cylinder is no longer perfectly round, the piston rings cannot seal it. This means that a used Camry from this era will start burning oil. Just like the others, it will burn a quart every few hundred miles. Owners often don't notice it until it's too late, and they run the engine dry, cooking it completely. The reason this is the number one worst engine on our list is simple. There is no easy or cheap fix. The solution is to bore out the entire block and install new oversized pistons and rings. The cost is so high that it makes no sense to repair a 15-year-old Camry. Because it's a Toyota, people will trust it, buy them for a decent price, and then be shocked when it starts failing spectacularly. You can't just replace a gasket or a sensor. You have to physically remanufacture the core of the engine. If you are looking at a Toyota from the mid-2000s with the 2.4-liter 2AZ FE, you need to be very, very careful. Check the oil levels, check the exhaust for blue smoke, and if you buy it, plan to check the oil every single time you fill up with gas. So let's recap the 8 engines of doom and the cars you need to approach with extreme caution on the used market. Toyota 2.4-liter 2AZ FE from 2002 to 2009, found in the Camry, RAV4, and Scion TC. The engine block has a catastrophic flaw leading to oil consumption and total failure. Ford 4.6-liter/5.4-liter Triton V8, 3-valve, found in the F-150, Expedition, and Mustangs, known for breaking spark plugs and the $5,000 death rattle from the timing components. Nissan 3.5-liter VQ35DE Early, pre-2006, found in the Maxima, Altima, and Murano. Massive oil consumption due to defective piston rings. Subaru EJ25 2.5-liter Turbo from 2004 to 2007, found in the WRX and STIs, prone to cracking piston ring lands requiring a full engine rebuild. GM Northstar V8, found in Cadillacs like the Seville and DeVille, famous for stripping head bolt threads and massive head gasket failures. Ford 6.0-liter Power Stroke Diesel V8, found in Super Duty trucks from 2003 to 2007, ruined by bad head bolts, EGR cooler, and a host of other expensive flaws. BMW N63 V8 Twin Turbo from 2008 to 2013, found in high-end BMW 5, 6, 7, and X5 models. The hot V design cooks every plastic seal, leading to massive oil leaks and coolant issues. Volkswagen Audi 2.0-liter TFSI EA888 Gen 1 and 2 from 2008 to 2014, found in the Jetta, Passat, A4, and Tiguan, known for thin, weak piston rings that lead to extreme oil consumption. The takeaway here is simple. Being a smart used car buyer means doing your homework on the engine, not just the brand. These 8 engines have ruined the ownership experience for millions of people, turning a good deal into a major financial nightmare. When you see one of these, remember the thousands of dollars in repair bills and walk away. To see the other vehicles you should avoid buying, click this video.